It's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get the zoning board meeting started. First thing I want to do is everybody please stand. We'll do the allegiance to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll do a quick roll call real quick. Kathy Hall.
Here.
Mike Evans, I'm here. Raven Smith.
Here.
Deborah Green, I believe, is not going to be able to make it. And Chester Mosley.
Here.
Present. We have the minutes from last week. We need to go over that. Everybody just want to approve them and get a motion to approve the minutes from last time.
I so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
No nays? That works. Now we have new agenda here. I believe Ashton Acres Senior Living Center. Your show, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Greg Majeski. I am with Miller Development. Not presented before the board of zoning before. We are a family-owned developer, builder, owner, and manager of multifamily housing throughout Indiana. And we are tonight discussing our plans for the proposed Ashton Acres project at 3986 South 600 West, which is just northwest of the intersection of 52 and Mount Comfort Road. So the property is, the address is 3986 South 600 West. It's just under 7 acres, and it was annexed into the town this past summer. It was also zoned R3 to multiple family residential at that same time. Currently standing on the site are a single family home with a detached garage and a barn, and the majority of it is just a grass lot. As you can see in this area right here, it does consist of these two parcels. They both share a common address, and we're going to be discussing both of them. The area surrounding it, to the north, is unincorporated Hancock County. It's zoned single-family residential. It is separated from the homes by the existing railroad track with the neighborhoods beyond. To the east is the town of New Palestine. It's zoned it's actually zoned two-family residential, but it's a mix of commercial and developing commercial. To the south, it's also within the town limits. There's a vacant home there right now, along with some unimproved lots and some commercial businesses in legacy residential homes. So it's very much in transition at the moment, going towards more intense uses. And to the west, it's unincorporated Hancock County. There is a barn with a single family home on the site that's directly adjacent, but that's zoned regional commercial. Our proposed use is to create an apartment community of independent living for seniors aged 55 and older. We're calling it Ashton Acres. As I said, we're a family-based company, family-owned company on its third generation of ownership. Ashton is one of the great-great-grandsons of the founder when he started the company in 1957. We are proposing 50 apartments, all of which will be 2-bedroom, along with indoor common space within the building, a single building, including a leasing office, a fitness room with equipment geared towards seniors, a theater, a multi-purpose room with a small kitchenette for social events and gatherings and things like that, as well as outdoor amenities like a covered pavilion with picnic tables and a grill, raised garden beds, walking trails, fenced pet run for dogs, and it will have off-street parking on the site that is being designed to meet and exceed what the ordinance requires for elderly housing. So our request this evening is for a special exception to be granted to allow elderly housing within an existing multifamily district. An elderly housing designation will allow us to build a better development that is more responsive to and representative of what seniors want in their home. It will allow us to use the site better, have more green space, and be more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Specifically by reducing those parking standards, like I just mentioned, we will be able to make what we believe is a better development because of that. And so within the ordinance, there are a bunch of other things we will be required to meet with this designation, and we are prepared to meet and exceed them. and they mostly relate to accessibility and adaptability modifications for people that age in place in their homes. The building will be served by an elevator. It'll have non-skid floors, doors, and hallways to accommodate wheelchairs. We'll have all electric appliances, either low step or roll-in showers in every unit instead of tubs. Outlets raised at least 24 inches from the floor. Grab bars as well as blocking if other bars need to be installed around all the fixtures in the bathrooms. Central heating, handle-type spigots on the plumbing fixtures and as well as doorknobs, and emergency signals, basically pull cords, which will ring in the corridor if someone is in their unit and can't get up. In addition to what the ordinance requires, we have built multiple elderly housing communities throughout the state, and we do a lot of features that population, it's useful to them. It helps make a safer, better development. 100% of our units will be either accessible or adaptable to meet ADA Type A standards. We'll have a 60 by 48 clear floor space in kitchens and 48 by 30 clear floor space in bathrooms to accommodate mobility devices. All in-unit corridors will be at least 42 inches. We'll have handrails in the common corridors. Light switches and plumbing and appliance controls will be located at reachable heights. We'll have handheld shower head extensions so that the head can be taken off the wall and connected with a hose. A washer and dryer will be in each unit, and audible and visual smoke detectors will be not only central but in each bedroom of each unit. Our proposed site plan is a single building, 2 stories, an L shape, situated on the southwest corner of this property, with an entrance drive coming in along 600 West around Comfort Road. Based on feedback we've already received from the town, we understand this needs to be as far from the existing railroad as possible. We will have on-site stormwater detention in a dry pond. There will not be standing water unless there is a significant rain event, in which case it will be released gradually over hours. And sidewalks where none currently exist, and connecting it with the trail that will circle the property. A similar building that's standing right now is, this is in Plainfield at 3650 Clarks Creek Road in Plainfield. This building is called Kinley Court. We built, developed, manage, continue to own it. It opened in 2018, and as far as styling, massing, tenant population that we intend to serve, this is a really good approximation of what we will intend to do here. This is a larger project. It's 64 units instead of the 50 that we want to do here. And the expected impact with the special exception is that we anticipate having between 50 to 57 residents. That's based on what we see in our current senior properties right now. I did a survey of our occupied 2-bedroom units in senior communities. They average 1.1 people per unit, with a low of 1.0 and a high of 1.14. So they will be 2-bedroom units, but we see them overwhelmingly occupied by single individuals. And because of that, we won't have many more people than there are apartments in this building. Same goes for vehicles. I surveyed our occupied senior projects around the state of Indiana, and we average between 0.6 to almost 1 vehicle per unit, with the average tending to be less in areas that have good proximity to amenities like groceries and healthcare and things like that. So we think we'll probably fall somewhere in the middle, maybe around 45 vehicles owned by those up to 57 tenants. And we intend, right now our site plan, which we're still getting feedback from the town on, we have 58 parking spaces drawn, which exceeds what the ordinance says for elderly housing is required by 18 spaces. I believe the ordinance would require 40 for a development like this, and we've got 58 shown. So this is more or less what was within our application packet. It's the 6 standards for evaluation that the BZA requires we address before a decision can be made. That it won't be detrimental to public health, safety, general welfare. We believe that by creating a new, safe, affordable, high-quality housing development, public good will be increased in the immediate area. It won't be detrimental to the use of surrounding properties. We will meet that by allowing for a less dense, less impactful, less impermeable surface development for seniors than what would otherwise be allowed already in that zoning district at that site. We will not impede or alter the orderly development of the area because we will have less impact to surrounding properties. This is not typical apartments. It will have less traffic, less people. And by developing a large property that's in the town and in a developing area, we will make the surrounding commercial properties, specifically along 52, more desirable and attractive. The site is served by existing utilities that are adequate in capacity to serve the proposed site. Adequate measures will be taken to minimize traffic congestion, including designing the entrance to meet what the town would like to see. And seniors don't drive as much as other tenants. There will be less vehicles owned. There will be no rushes corresponding to either work rush hour or school hours. And other than what the ordinance says we can do for elderly housing, the ordinance says we must meet all the other development standards for the multifamily district, and we intend to do that. We're not seeking any other type of variance or waiver from what the ordinance says. With all of that said, we respectfully request that the Board of Zoning Appeals approves the special exception to allow elderly housing within this district.
Any questions?
I do have questions. Yep. So what is zoned now allows how many parking spots? And elderly puts it to what?
The elderly puts it into, I think, 0.8, is that correct? And I think with regular apartments, which they could do apartments, it could go back to 2. But I think like theirs, they're not wanting to put apartments there, they're wanting to put senior living there, so my assumption correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Any questions?
Not currently.
Does anybody can see the like overlay picture again? I think you had it like the second slide, the aerial view.
The property or the site plan?
Just the site, well, not that one, it was like an aerial view. Okay,
Right.
yeah. That's the only question, that's the only thing I had right there. Any
Can I
other
see the
questions?
picture of the building again?
Yes.
And there's currently a home on that, or a building on that
Yes.
property?
It's being sold or taken down.
Just out of curiosity, what do these normally, a normal rent for these?
The rents are going to range between $573 to $930 per month.
If I may add, Sunday, well, I think it was Sunday, I was at McDonald's there, and I think we all know Jake Gumberts. He's been here since 1959, and he's sold his house and he's moving to Shelbyville. And so we're losing a resident that's been here since, 59. In the reasons because he doesn't have a place really to go. And I asked him, I said, if this place was like he said, it's not here yet. So we will continue to lose seniors, without a product like this. So
I agree.
And especially people that live there their whole life.
as contrary as Jake is, he'll be missed.
I concur with that one. I thank you for your presentation, sir. I appreciate it. I'm going to open the floor now to anybody who'd like to make a comment, have questions. Yes, sir.
Make sure you get his name and address.
No, I think we got to know where you're
My name is Clinton Bledsoe, 46 West Main Street. This came to the town council, and they tried to pass this, get this passed without anybody knowing that it is not a senior living facility. In our code, a senior living facility is a dependent living facility. An independent living facility is multifamily dwellings, which calls for 2 parking places per apartment. Now, you can take his survey, which he did himself, or you can believe the moon is made of blue cheese. Because I almost guarantee you that a two-bedroom apartment with people 55 years old, how many people 55 years old you know don't drive? I don't believe there's going to be less than one car per apartment. And I also don't believe there's only going to be one person per apartment. So without that being an independent, dependent living facility, in other words, memory care or assisted living, it is not a senior community in our code. Our code says it's an independent unit with two parking places. So they can't pass that off as a senior living facility that only needs 0.8 parking places per unit. I asked at the meeting, after they tried to pass this with nobody knowing about it, after I looked at the code, I asked at the meeting if they had room there to put in 2 parking places per apartment, and they said yes. So, in my opinion, we ought to stick to the 2 parking places, and if they want to build it, let them build it, it's passed. And if they don't want to let them build it, go someplace else. Thank you.
Any questions on that one? Anybody else? Go ahead, sir.
Dale Wagner, 4462 South 600 West. First off, some quick comments about parking. I think Clint makes some good points. Also, a lot of cars now are becoming electric, so considerations in that parking lot for having chargers and things, but it's probably going to be important as technology changes and we go on. The other thing I have is this is supposed to be a public hearing, and I didn't hear you all call a public hearing. So basically, we're still in a BZA meeting. Also, the notice for this, they put one thing in the paper asking for an exception for elderly housing, or whatever y'all are calling it. What was posted by the town is that they're looking for a special exception request, a reduction in parking spaces required. You all in your meeting are required to do what's on here. So the only thing y'all can do tonight is either approve or don't approve parking. That's not what they're asking for. So also how the BZA is structured, y'all should have 2 members off of the planning commission. So you don't have the right structure to begin with to make any decisions. So that's something else to consider. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to? Go ahead.
Shawnee Meyer, 21 East Main Street, New Palestine. Easy question. In your other buildings, for the example of Plainfield, when you look at the age breakout, if you were to do 55 to 65, 65 to 75 and above, how does your population break out age-wise?
So now,
I'm sorry, is that
Please.
appropriate to ask that question? I'm so sorry.
I let you go ahead and answer. I have
so
no problem
sorry.
with that. No, you're fine. Go ahead
It's-
and you can answer it.
it's definitely more towards the 65 and older retirement age population.
Would anybody else like to comment? Yes, sir.
Ron Wally, and I'm going to make a statement from the Planning Commission. We spent lengthy time, and we had one of the state's top people that's involved in Planning Commission, and she did a report on this of what needed to happen, and about the parking, when the parking and so on would be approved, and the development plan can be approved by the zoning administrator, And then the other thing is, you talk about word, I'm just giving you the facts. And so it says in New Palestine, this is official report that we had, and it was presented, and it says in R3, you can do elderly housing. It seems to be a key with senior, elderly, independent. But in our code, it said, and it was reported back to us, that special exceptions for use in R3 include elderly housing with independent and semi-independent, family care home, golf course. So that has to be approved. And then, like I said, I just want to make it clear so that you guys have the facts that they applied, and all the permits that they applied for were elderly housing, and whatever that means legally, but it's an exception that can be made through the Board of Zoning Appeals. Okay?
Thank you,
Any
sir.
questions from me from the Planning Commission?
Any questions?
I'm a little, I thought we were approving a special exception for parking.
Parking.
Is that
Yeah.
all we're,
And Doug can answer that question, but I was told that that can come from the planning administrator, which is Jim, when they submit the plan. So I'm just stating the facts that we went through on the planning commission. So, anything else, Kathy?
no.
Oh,
Well,
good.
thank you very much.
I love him.
Is there any other questions?
If I could jump in and address some of those issues.
Sure.
For those members of the public that are unclear, we have entered into a time of public hearing, whether by form or substance, here and there, and I think most people know that by saying up and speaking. So just so it's clear, we have entered into that period of time. Your ordinance uses the term elderly housing, and elderly housing, as defined in section 105 of the zoning ordinance, says all elderly housing developments, whether independent, semi-independent, or dependent living facilities. So it doesn't have to be dependent or semi-independent, as previously stated. It can be any of those three to qualify for the special exception. It's currently zoned R3. If it meets the definition of elderly housing, and we've had testimony to that today, you can qualify for the special exception for elderly housing. One of those components of the elderly housing special exception is that reduced amount of parking spaces. So that's what you're considering all in all. Does it meet the special exception for elderly housing? And then you'll evaluate on those, switch screens here, 6. There's 6 standards for evaluation that were provided to you in the packet. I can go over those if you'd like, or you should have those in front of you. So if it meets those 6 standards, then you can choose to approve or not approve.
What packet?
The one I emailed to you all last week, and I'm not sure if they gave you a paper.
I
copy
saw
as
them,
well.
I read them, but I did not print them, so I apologize.
I'd
You just
be
have
happy
them
to
up there,
read them
didn't you?
So it's the email
He's
that
got them
you're,
right here.
that you're
He
referring
showed them in
to.
his
Okay.
presentation.
He had abbreviated answers, but there would be 6 standards of evaluation.
Earlier in your presentation, you said you had room for more than 44.
Ordinance would require at least 40. We have 58 in what we submitted.
Okay. If this gets approved, are you going to use 58 or are you just going to do 44?
We have submitted a development plan to the town's planning commission, who would approve or deny our plan. We have submitted the same number of parking spaces as what we've discussed tonight. So we're telling you 58. If they approve 58, we'll build 58. If they say you need a few more, we'll do a few more. We're still working that part out. That's a separate process.
How many people's working at the building?
There will be 2 staff, part-time.
So now you have 50 houses plus 2 staff. So if we give 1 per thing plus 2, we have 52. So you have 6 people can visit 50 people. And we're over capacity. So we're saying grandma's gonna get 6 visitors, out of 50 grandmas and grandpas, 6 people can choose to have a visitor and that's it. The rest of you, sorry about you.
That's if everybody has a car,
Correct.
if there's no handicap or something like that.
Yeah, it's not including handicap, right?
Yep.
I think it needs to go back to the drawing board, and I'll make a motion that we do not approve this.
Real
Oh, sorry.
quick, as just a point of order, if there's no one else from the public that wishes to speak at this time, you've opened it up to public comment, I would close public comment and then proceed with any.
Yeah, at this point, does anybody else would like to come up and make a comment? If not, we'll close that part of it out.
Actually, I have a curiosity.
Your name, sir?
Ethan Maple, 4140 South Cypress Court. One of the things you mentioned about parking is accessibility to things like grocery stores, wellness centers, things like that, which would be. Is it possible to work with crosswalks and things like that, to like Needlers, to the wellness center, and is there any plan within your hope to create that, and how does that come about if we were going to do that?
We'd be happy to work with the town in whatever way we can. We can only control what's on the property, right? We're considering, we're adding sidewalks where there are none existing. We're adding pedestrian infrastructure within our own property. And if the town wants to cooperate with us to add something that connects, we'd be happy to do that. Okay. May I make a response to some of the comments that were heard at the hearing, if the hearing is open?
You may, and if anybody has a comment on those comments, I'll let them respond to.
The clarification I would like to make is that if we were seeking just to reduce parking for an apartment complex, we would have applied for a parking waiver. We are not seeking to do that. We are seeking to create a development for senior citizens. We're experienced in doing that. We are proposing a development that that exceeds the 10 criteria that the town uses to define what elderly housing is. And based on that definition, the ordinance says as long as you have at least 0.8 parking spaces per apartment unit, you meet the ordinance. We are intending to exceed that number as well. We have been doing this for a very long time. We've been building apartments since the 50s. We've been developing them ourselves since the 80s. We specialize in serving seniors. And I apologize, Mr. Bledsoe, that you don't believe my numbers, but those are real numbers. Those aren't hypothetical averages. It's not census data. It's based on who is renting from us in small towns in Indiana today. And we believe that this development that we are proposing will best serve the people there. There will be more lawn, less impermeable surface. We absolutely have room to add more parking, but we don't want to make a depressing gray landscape that has rain runoff and won't get used. We want to make a nice place to live in New Palestine.
Are there any comments from the public on that? Okay, at this time, I will close the public part of the discussion. Is there any motions to be placed out there?
I'll make a motion to not approve this at this time.
Anybody want to second that? I do agree that I think it probably needs to go back to the planning committee on the parking. I think that's a big one. And until you get that really hashed out, I think at this point, I would not approve the zoning of that at this time.
May I respond? We're not seeking development plan approval. We are seeking approval that we can meet the definition in your ordinance for elderly housing.
I think you meet the definition, but like she said, you're limiting, instead of 2 spots, you're limiting only one spot.
If the plan commission and the engineering consultants that are reviewing our development plan say absolutely not, you need 65 parking spaces or 72 parking spaces, we will revise. We do
Okay,
not
so
have
let me ask you this, sir. If let's say we did approve it, and the town says, no, you gotta have 65 parking spots, you gonna put 65 in?
Absolutely, or we wouldn't be able to pull a building permit. We will do what the town requires us to do. This process this evening is just to show that we meet what the ordinance says we are supposed to.
and he's asking to lower the number from what we say, that the thing says now. If he can do that, I do ask that he take that back and get it exactly how he wants it and how the town's going to say, okay, I'm gonna hand you a permit. And when that is right, then we'll discuss it. But right now, they're so wishy-washy, I can do this and I can do that. No, let's get a definition. Let's get exactly what you're going to present to me. Because this plan has already, I'm on the planning commission. This has already been flipped once. So we're gonna make it beautiful, I agree. I do think it's gonna be nice. We flipped it now you're gonna look at the railroad track. So a lot of things have changed since this came to us the very first time. So I'm asking that we do not approve it, let him go back, get exactly how he wants it to be done, that they're going to say yes, and come back to us and we'll discuss it then.
Go ahead.
Without a determination as to whether or not we meet the ordinance definition of elderly housing, the plan commission has nothing to go on other than just say, okay, you absolutely have to have 100 parking spaces. Because for multifamily housing, the standard is 2. And should we be denied tonight, we will do 2 spaces per unit. But without that designation of elderly housing, the plan commission can't really answer that question fairly for us.
If I may just add on, what Mr. Magic is saying is correct. This doesn't, it didn't come to you from the planning commission.
Correct.
You heard it at the planning commission.
Correct.
And you'll hear it again at the planning commission when the development plan comes to you. This is a zoning issue. So again, it was zoned R3 upon annexation. The zoning administrator, the town manager, reviewed the application and then asked forward it to the VCA for approval. So we're saying, does this meet the requirements for this zoning? And you have to go through, and he's gone through, if it meets the elderly housing, and then your evaluation standards are what's here on the screen. So you can evaluate and say that it doesn't meet that, or you don't believe that it meets that, and deny that. That just means that zoning stays as R3 regular.
Which
it
is
still will go through the plan development process, and the planning commission will hear their process. But it will then be held to that regular R3 standard.
2 parking spots.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a tendency to agree with it needs 2 parking spots. I think we're at that point. I agree with that part of it. I mean, that's something that he can hash out with the planning commission, that's fine. I do believe that at this point, it's, yeah, I'm sorry, I agree with what you're saying. I think it should be 2 spots.
That's not the purpose of this right now. They're
Right.
saying the purpose is to approve.
Find
the
out whether it
zoning.
stays R3 or not, correct?
Right.
It'll be R3, and will it have that special exception for elderly housing, or will it not have that special exception for elderly housing?
I make a motion, we approve the elderly housing zoning to the new.
Well, he does meet they do meet the standards, I mean,
Right.
Of our 3.
of R3, yes.
If
And that
that's-
would be hashed out in the planning zone if they want parking spaces.
So R3 says that there will be 2. So he's asking you,
For the exception,
correct?
Is that
There's been a
correct what she's
motion made,
saying?
and is there
There's been a
second?
motion made that said, I did no, not approve it. So we have to yay or nay it, and then,
Well, there's been no second on either motion. So if I may make a suggestion,
wait for,
I'd recommend striking both motions.
Yeah.
Starting over. And typically it's, under Robert's rules, you put the question in the positive, so to approve, and then if you don't want to approve it, even if you make the motion under way to vote, yea or nay, and it would fail by lack of votes.
now, at this point, I think we're split on this, and I would make a motion that we strike both down at this time. I get a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
to strike it down?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All negative?
I,
where we're at right now. Anything else, sir? You think?
No, just so that the minutes reflect what you did.
I struck both motions down. I asked to strike both motions.
Okay, so now, this is still pending. This is still open business. There should be a motion to approve, second, or table it if you don't want to vote on it tonight.
I think because we are divided, we need to wait and hold it till the next, or fifth.
I agree. I think we should, I make a motion and we wait on our vote for tonight and come back and do it again. So we have to think about it and see what they got planned out.
So there's been a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Aye.
Any discussion?
I don't have any discussion.
That's where we're at right now, sir.
Hearing no discussion, there's a call for a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All negative? Negative. One.
Negative.
We have three yeses, one no.
I don't believe there's any other business.
There is, yeah, if there's any other, we will call this meeting adjourned.
I'm sorry, did you guys approve the minutes?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Did.
When's the next meeting? They're continuing the meeting, right?
The table that did not continue the meeting.
So does that mean he has to give notice to all those people again, and the town has to put a notice, the correct notice on the door, and put all of that? It should be a continued meeting, well,
I just need to be here. You were here.
I don't know, they do what they do, and come back, and have their discussion and vote.
Oh.
I don't have a crystal ball, but
Didn't work.
figure it out.
Yeah, no,
You can't just walk out of here and leave the guy hanging.
well,
They certainly can, they can do either, you can do either option.
well, we're not gonna be able to make a
Advise you, I can't
decision
tell you what to
tonight. That's obviously.
I think we're not clear on what we're talking about. He's just asking for an exception, not discussing the parking. I mean, it's gonna come back to us at a later date.
Yeah, but he might be more definitive when they come back too.
Is there anything in particular I may be more definitive about?
For
I
me
can't
here,
think of anything. I mean, it's not that you didn't meet it. I just think I need more clarity on I don't want it to fall on the wayside where we say, yeah, it's approved, and then turn around and we only got 58 spots. That's what I'm afraid of.
Mr. Evans, with all due respect, we're not asking you to approve a development plan. We are asking for you to decide if the development we are proposing meets your ordinances, the town's ordinance's definition for what elderly housing is.
With the special exception.
That is the special
Elderly
exception.
housing only exists in your ordinance as a special exception.
so it doesn't matter how many parking spots there is,
Not at this time.
long as it meets the law as far as the
Meet
layout.
the law, and then you can evaluate on the 6 standards that are on the screen.
Once they come up with the site plan, they'll be brought to us again to approve the parking, you know.
The Plan Commission will approve that.
So the number of parking spots, doesn't matter what we vote.
It does.
Mr. President, can I speak as a member of the Plan Commission, not as a public? Is
You
that
may,
okay?
sir.
Yeah. Again, my name's Ron Wally. I'd like to make it clear for myself, if something's going to be thrown back down the food chain, we need to know what we're supposed to do. And then the other thing I would caution on is you have to take your personal doesn't match the code, we need to do this and we need to do that. So I want to make it clear that you're not voting whether you personally want this to go or not to go. You're voting whether it meets the requirements. And I truly would ask, if you voted it down, which you have, you need to give guidance on what's next. Correct, Doug? Yeah.
That's correct, but also, I know you know this, Ron, but
Yeah.
it doesn't come back to you.
Yes.
It does not come back to the planning commission. This is a zoning issue on whether or not they meet the special exception. And then whether, if you evaluate on those standards, whether or not you wish to approve that special exception.
And I would be very eager to give you the packet that was presented to the planning commission by Deborah Lazar, which again, she's one of the top ones in the nation, or in the state, for planning commission. And she's evaluated all this, and at the planning commission, that's what we went off, her evaluations, suggestions. So I would be glad to give you this copy. It's public record, and it should be on file, but I would be glad to give you that too. So I just want to make it clear, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
One thing I might add is that statute allows the board to approve special exceptions, and then it also has this undefined sentence at the end that says the board may impose reasonable conditions as part of its approval. And so if the concern is that you don't want to go to point 8 and Keller's telling you that they're not going to go to point 8, they're doing something above that, that may very well qualify as a reasonable condition to have it at that, not point 8, but it's at the, Greg, do you know what percentage you're already doing?
I can do the math real quick. As drawn right now, we have 1.16 parking spaces per unit.
So Mr. Bledsoe?
If this meets our code, why are we here? For a special exception? Thank you.
Fair question.
So again, your code has special exceptions in it, which the board of zoning appeals has to approve. They've met their requirements for R3. He's laid out whether or not they have met all the elderly housing requirements. There's their testimony that they have. So if the board is concerned with the point 8, you could make a special condition under the statute that puts it at the 1.16 that they've said that they're going to do, and then you've raised the bar on parking. And that would be a reasonable condition that's allowable under the statute.
I would make a motion, we go one more time if anybody has a question. Yes, sir.
Let's rationally think about this for one time. If they meet the code, why are we here for a special exception?
I think, believe he just answered.
I mean, why are we here if they meet the code? So they know they don't meet the code, because in the code book it says that it has to be a dependent living facility to be .8, not an independent living facility.
I believe, didn't the code say both independent and dependent? I believe it said both.
All elderly housing developments, whether independent, semi-independent, or dependent living facilities.
So they're all three are in there on the code. Well, I would suggest maybe make a motion, we take another vote.
So under Robert's rules, you're allowed to reconsider if a member of the party that voted against the motion makes the motion. So we do have that here. If there's a motion there's a second to the motion, you'd be able to reconsider your vote.
I would make a motion that we reconsider the vote. Anybody second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a comment. Why are we not waiting for our fifth individual to help us?
He's not here.
if we're wanting to drop down 1.2 spots per house,
It's my understanding we can make a request at this time, is that correct?
So you could make a request that it be changed or
The parking, I mean, if
to
that's,
whatever it is, make a reasonable request. You can't do that at this point. Right now, there's a motion to reconsider on the table that's been seconded and they're in comment right now, so there's been no vote to reconsider yet.
I mean, if you're gonna consider what he's asking and go down that far, and we were just at a hung decision, I think we should wait on the fifth person. What has been said here does not give clarification that what you just explained that you need. And if we want to drop that far, now if he wants to go to 1.8, that's 90 spots. Can you meet that?
I don't know.
Well, he just told you in this presentation he was already prepared for 2, but just now asked if 1.8 and he doesn't know. So he was okay with 2 in the presentation, he just told you that, which is why he's an R3. But he cannot meet a 1.8. What is that telling you?
can you respond?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Mathers, I'm not prepared to answer an engineering question that hasn't been put to our engineer yet.
Okay,
I know there's room on the site.
okay.
At that point, though, I'm not sure we would want to do the other voluntary restrictions for elderly housing. And at that point, it may make more sense to us to say, okay, we'll just do a typical R3 development.
Okay.
But because this is just now being posed to me, I'm not prepared to give you a thought-out answer.
Okay.
And with that, you know, when he says it's just an R3, remember, that's rental, that's 100 parking spots. Do we want an apartment complex there? Do you run that risk as well?
No,
So there's still a motion on the table, whether or not it's been seconded, on whether or not to reconsider. If there's no other conversation, I would suggest taking a vote on the motion to reconsider.
I have a motion, I made a motion to reconsider, I believe you seconded it, is that correct? All right, all in favor of this proposal? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
And negative?
No.
That's three yeses, 1 no. I'm not sure where to go from there.
So you're at the point of reconsidering the approval of the special exception.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of something. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
You made a motion to reconsider.
Right,
So
we had
previously
3
you-
ayes, 1 negative.
Right. So you're reconsidering the special exception, so there should be a motion to approve, a second, and discussion, and then vote again. And again,
Wow.
see if you have votes to pass it, or if you don't, then you can make a motion to table, or it fails.
I'm at a loss here.
If we're at a loss, then it's obvious that we need to wait on the fifth person.
I kind of do agree with that. Wait for the fifth.
Just as one final comment,
Yes.
the 0.8 parking spaces per unit is defined as the minimum within your ordinance. That means that we could not be below that. We could be required to be above that once the Plan Commission finishes its review of our development plan application, which has been submitted and which we will get feedback on. I'm not requesting that you approve 0.8 parking spaces per unit. I am requesting that you approve our request to be held to the standards in your ordinance that say this is how elderly housing should be built.
But wouldn't that be,
Leaving the table open.
Wouldn't that be the planning commission to decide that, not us? Well, then, point being is why we're here. I mean, you want us to approve the exception, but that's really something the planning commission needs to do, and if something comes up after that, then we would have to take care of that.
So again, the Board of Zoning Appeals sets the zoning and approves special exceptions. So you're setting the bare minimum of what can go on a parcel of land. And then the planning commission will approve the development plan. So you are correct in that the planning commission will address that issue, but you're here today to set the bare minimum. So I think Jim was alluding to, if the special exception for elderly housing is not approved, then they're not held to putting all those things in for elderly housing. Theoretically, they could put in regular apartment buildings. It's not the line of business they're in. But theoretically, you've set the bar at just R3 unless you approve the elderly living, which requires all those things that he went through. So if you want to set the bar at elderly housing, which does have a minimum of 0.8 spaces, you can do that. If you don't want to do that, it stays at R3. That opens up more options to them as far as how they can develop it. There's more options within R3 than just that special exception. So you're setting the bar, and then the plan commission goes through and says, hey, this is how we want it. We expect that to be developed within that zoning and that special exception, whether or not it's granted. Does that help?
Are we,
I can tell you, I worked at an engineering company. Until you sit down and do that site plan, you don't know how many spots are gonna fit in there. I mean.
What we're doing is we're voting on whether it stays elderly or anything else he wants to do. We're trying to keep it at a certain standard.
But no, his line of business.
aren't we all, only thing we're doing is deciding if they meet the criteria,
Yes.
not
R3.
how many, how few, how many. All we're doing is then, they meet the standard
For the special.
for the special,
And the planning commission creates how many spots they can have.
yeah.
So really, we're just keeping it at an elderly instead of anything else.
You're changing it from an R3 to have the elderly.
Right. Because if it wasn't elderly, he could put anything he wanted there.
He has to have it approved.
But
So
he
it just
has to
can't just,
approve, but it's said in the standard saying, we want to keep it like this, so he can't do,
This is what's approved, like Doug just said, they can do multifamily, manufactured family, they're asking for
For this
a
here.
special exception, which has to be
right.
done.
So
Special
this would
exception.
keep it at the elderly standards, and this is more or less like.
If you don't do
apartment
anything,
standards.
that's what can be
Right.
done.
That explains a lot. Yeah, we're not deciding how many parking spots are gonna be there, we're just trying to keep it at a certain, I mean, pretty sure you're probably not gonna change your mind, so we're still gonna be deadlocked, or at least locked.
I'm asking that the fifth person join us.
I can't guarantee all 5 of us will be here next time, so.
Then we need to have somebody else on the committee.
I've heard that she might resign. Is that correct, Brenda? So you still have a quorum,
And that
so.
means we still need somebody from the planning commission to join us, I guess, if that's the rule that I'm supposed to have to do.
We're,
What is the rule, I guess, on how this is supposed to be developed? Before we're making votes that we can't even hold up if it's not right anyway.
Your vote tonight will hold up. We have a quorum of properly elected BZA members. So I will work with the council on having, if there's an opening, we can fill the opening. So at this point, you can either approve the special exception. You can table it if you want to have another member here. If you table it, you can either call for another meeting and set that meeting right now. That will save the developer from having to post notice again. Or if you just does table it and don't schedule another meeting, the developer will have to incur the cost of going through posting notice again, for the special exception.
I don't see any rush in this.
Was there a motion out there then?
I make a motion, this is tabled until we have another member to join us.
Got a date?
How quick can we get somebody else, or can we get with her to see when she can be here?
I have to talk to the attorney there.
I could call her, I got her number.
Who's that?
Anna Green,
She,
so she's resigning?
yes.
How long does it take the council to approve somebody else?
What?
Well, I think we have to research what position that was and who exactly appointed that particular position.
That's correct.
This is an all-terrain decision for our town, and I think that it deserves the right to be thought through.
I would suggest, if your intention is to name the second time right now, to do it for the second meeting in December, that would give the council the first December meeting to take any action.
That's my motion for the table it until,
I should make a motion, we table it to the December meeting,
I'll second.
December 20th,
December 20th.
and be at 6 p.m.
At that time, we'll make a decision. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any negatives? I'm assuming at this point then the meeting will be adjourned?
Adjourned until the 20th.
Till the 20th, this meeting will be adjourned till the 20th of December. The board at that time will make a decision.
Need a motion.
Thank you.
Need a motion on adjourn.
I move that we
Need a
adjourn this
motion on
meeting.
adjournment. Second.
I'll second that
second.
one.
Who did, who said that?
First, I'll second.
Who seconded then? No, he made.